All right. Good Monday morning, everyone. Happy Memorial Day. Remember that Memorial Day is about those that gave their lives for our freedom and are still currently doing that. So make sure when you're doing your barbecue and stuff to remember those that have fallen and given their lives for service. But you guys are listening to Author Talk with me, Amy Fern. Our lovely guest today is Greg. And Russell is off doing adventurous camping things. He had to get his camp on. So he's
in nature. He's in nature where
He
there's
is
no
in-
Wi-Fi. And
He is, but you know the greatest thing about this whole thing is I can now give Russell crap because he's not on, because I live in fear of when Russell is on actually doing it to him. So it's quite nice because he is in nature with no Wi-Fi signal, anything. So the repercussions that I will get will be later when he comes home. So it's fantastic. Okay. I just absolutely love it. But no, so this weekend, you guys, I went to San Antonio. My brother-in-law graduated from high school. So he is living the dream, is saving for his Tesla truck is what he's currently doing. But it was wonderful. I battled food poisoning before going, which was awful. I don't recommend anybody to battle food poisoning, okay? Like I'm still having to hydrate because I got so dehydrated on this hot mess of a thing, okay? So that was my lovely weekend. But Fern, what did you do?
so I actually went to the Alley Theater with Mac Little. She and I have been travel buddies, and she writes for my company and stuff. And so we decided to just have a matinee and just do a girls' Saturday. And so we chilled and had a really good time. And around that beautiful event, I spent my weekend making anthologies for my students at the Writers in Schools, my own anthologies of my placement, plus, they hired me to put together, anthologies for the other teachers. And so I've just been like, every time I log into the system, more anthologies have appeared to be made. And so they reproduce like bunnies.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
That is a good, what is that? A comparison, analogy, whatever. That English wasn't my strong suit, okay?
I think if it's a like or as, it's a simile. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you should have been my English teacher. Between you and Fern, I may have written a book, okay? Because I don't know any of that, but bunnies, how you said that is true. Yes.
They reproduce. It's like every time I go in there, there's more to be done. It's like amazing. I'm I just finished a whole bunch. I finished a load, and then more pop up. It's like, oh my gosh, people, we need to streamline this process. I already told the lady though that once it's over and this year, we need to go have coffee and talk about how we can make the process smoother next year. So
there you go, brainstorm. I like it.
Because this year, because initially we weren't going to do anthologies this year. We hadn't been having to do them with the COVID situation and whatnot. So, but I think they're really great because it does give the kids a sense of being published. And, well, Greg, I mean, you're an author, right? We're authors. That feeling of, you have a book and your book is in a book, and, it's just an ebook and it's just something that's going to be in their homes, but it's still a really good feeling.
They're going to have that forever though. Eventually these kids are going to share with their kids the story that they published when they were in middle school, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's something that they will cherish forever. I never had any of that. I really missed out, Fern. You should have been my English teacher or something. I never got any of these things. No one wanted to do an anthology and publish it. Okay. We never did writing paragraphs and it was published. Honest to God, I'm not going to lie. I did not realize what an anthology was until I started working with you and Sandy. And I started working with y'all when I was 20, 21. Okay. That is how deprived my English system was. Now, to my benefit, I probably didn't pay attention that much in English class. I liked more of the history. Physics was more my thing, the cool history stories, and then physics where I got to throw water balloons at cars. It was great. So maybe it was also tied into that, but I did not realize what an anthology was until I started working with you guys 10 plus years ago. Okay. So it's never too late to learn something. I'm just saying.
And as Greg can attest to, because he's got several short works in anthologies, they're a great way for writers to get some of their work out there, to get their universe out there, get people interested in the flavor of your writing and to some of your minor characters. So it's a wonderful tool. And for the reader, it's just fun. I mean, they're short stories, multiple authors. You get a sample. It's kind of like a sampler. It's like ordering the sampler.
Oh, that is a good way. Yes. I do like that. You had me at that ordering the sampler because I can never make up my mind. Greg, I don't know if you're like this when you go to a restaurant, but then, when they give you create a sampler and you're like, oh, okay, that works because you can't think up your mind.
Right. Yeah.
I always go to the sampler. Maybe, I don't know. I can't help it. I can't help it. But Greg, what did you do this weekend?
Oh, geez. Well, last week was just rainy all week. The plus side was it kept the temperature down. So this weekend, the rain kind of finally stopped, but now the temperature's climbing back up and it's getting hot and summery, which is not usually my favorite when it's all humid and hot. So I tried to kind of stick inside, but I had a friend come up Sunday and we hung out. But I'm on like triple deadlines right now, so I spent a lot of time working on the writing side of things because I've got a book due at the end of June. I'm finishing up my first series in July, and then I've also got to do audiobook reviews on the latest book I just had come out, which is being recorded right now. So it's just constant.
Right.
Oh my goodness, you are a busy man, but we can understand the heat, wanting to stay inside. We understand that. Okay, living in Texas where we do. It's one of those. I saw a thing on Facebook, Fern. I don't know if you shared it or if one of my friends did. But it said to all the people that aren't from Texas, that are here visiting, we're still warming up. Okay, this is just us slowly warming up, and it's 95, like an index of 105. Like we're just slowly warming up. Okay, we haven't hit our max potential yet of how hot.
No, we're in the preheat cycle of the oven.
There you go. Yeah, we're preheating the oven for sure. Once we hit like August, July and August, those are our like hot months. Which, go figure, is the 2 months that I had my kids in, which are the hottest damn months of the year in Texas. Oh, no. We can't do nothing outside. Like, we just fly. We will melt outside.
Well, let's face it. In reality, I don't go outside. I mean, unless I absolutely must. Me and nature.
Fern doesn't do bugs. She does not do bugs, Greg. Not at all. Where Russell's out there hiking it in the wilderness of Georgia, and he is the most excited man because he's like, I'm doing my hiking again. It's been like a year, I think. So he's getting his hiking on, and he's in new land because he's in Georgia. So he's got to go explore all that Georgia has to offer in terms of nature. And Fern just cringes every time.
I just hope he is prepared with bear repellent because, like. He was talking about how there are bears out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I'm just like, I hope he's prepared. We can't lose Russell to bear. Okay.
You know what, though? If Russell was on here, he would be like, that is the coolest way to die. Like, he would be 100% an advocate for that. Like, I'm just saying.
I was going to just say, I suspect between Russell and a bear, I think Russell would win. I mean, I don't think those bears stand a chance with Russell out there.
You know what? Oh, that is the biggest compliment to him. I thought it would be like a cool way for him to go. Like, what a story, But oh my god,
holds up the bear repellent and then just kind of looks at it and tosses it aside, and he's just like, "Okay, we're gonna do it."
Oh my goodness, I can't wait for him to do the Appalachian Trail. I want to hear all about that story. I know Josh is like, he'll have to sit down, and him and Josh will have to talk because I know that's just going to be a hot topic whenever he decides to do all of that. But you guys, I know that we usually talk about the membership, all of the goody stuff that we have going on, but this week we're actually taking a break. So this Monday night we are not meeting, which means that we also will not be meeting Wednesday morning to do a mastermind. So we're going to do a little hiatus, I guess, at the end of May. See, I'm already into June, you guys. At the end of May, we're going to take this week off and we're going to kick it back off starting in June. And let me just say that June is a packed month. Okay, I love you all dearly, and you have packed up my June. There are other months that are available. I'm just throwing it out there. But between summits and book launches and everything else that really has decided to go into June, and, my birthday's in there too, people. My anniversary, Father's Day, all these things are also in June. So make sure you stay tuned with me, Fern, and Greg, and what all we have going on for the month of June. Lovapalooza will be kicking off June 17th, which is all romance readers. You guys are all welcome to go to that. But other than that, we are still number in the top 10 on Good Pods for our podcast. You can find that anywhere that you can find a podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify. Ooh, on Spotify, if you want to watch us in our animated selves, because you guys know that I talk with my hands and I can't control what my facial expressions are. I control what comes out of my mouth, but not how my face reacts to it, okay? But you can watch us on video now on Spotify, or you can watch us on YouTube, our Facebook group, or over on any one of our social media channels. We're always there. You can find us on Amazon Music, anywhere that you can listen to a podcast. You can listen to us. We're even on Apple and Google Play. All of those things is where you can listen to us. I know if I didn't say that, I would hear it from Russell when he got back into the Wi-Fi area to communicate with me. So other than that, you guys, I'm going to let Fern take it away. We're going to get Greg talking about all of his books, his latest books, the books that series that he's going to be wrapping up. So Fern, it is your time to shine, my friend.
Well, Greg, first of all, I just wanted to say congratulations on kind of getting to the end of one series coming up in July.
That's right.
How does that feel? Because, authors, we tend to start the end of the tunnel's too far.
It's weird when I got to the sort of the end part of the actual draft, and I realized that was kind of it for these characters that I've been. I mean, the first book came out in 2015, I think, November, and but I'd been living with them in some form or other in my head for several years before that. So it's been like almost a decade of my life that these characters have been rattling around up there. And so to be like, oh, this is it for them. And because never say never, but I don't currently have any plans to go back to it. It's just, it's definitely a bittersweet feeling. It's almost like saying bye to old friends or family or something like that.
I hear that all the time. I hear it all the time when like a series comes to an end, or just a standalone book and they've killed off a character, or something like that. Every author I have talked to, maybe besides Russell, I don't know if I've ever gotten this out of Russell. I'm sure, but it's sad for them to die. I envy that, because I wish that I could relate to that, because I'm the one that hasn't written a book on here. I just deal with authors.
Well, I think you can relate to it, Amy, on the reader side, because for a reader, right? Like I remember when I got to the end of Hunger Games, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was sad. I was like, wait, what? There's no other book? What happens next, right? Because you do have a sense, and this for all our writers, Greg, I'm sure for you too. Your series starts in one point, but these people before your series starts, they had a life, and after the series closes here, their lives will go on. We just don't get to see it anymore until, sometimes they come back to you. Sometimes they want to see more.
Yeah.
But it's exciting. It's exciting to get to the end, like not just of a book, but like the series, like you completed it. It must be so exciting. So do you have big plans for like a party or something to celebrate the end of a series?
I hope so. Right now I've got so much going on. I haven't thought that far ahead. I'm just like, I got to get it out there so that it can. I feel bad. I really wanted to get it out late last year or even early this year, prior to the new series starting, because I worried that people who had invested time in the old series would see this new one coming out and be like, wait, is he just dropping the old one? But it just, life got in the way. I had some stuff last fall that derailed me from working on it, and it just hasn't worked out. So I've been kind of pushing to get it out, because I really don't want to make folks wait any longer. But yeah, there's going to be some kind of, whatever kind of party I can get together in July to celebrate. I'm
game to go to.
Yeah, you had us at party, okay? Virtual party. We're good at those, okay? You had us there.
All right. Well, we'll definitely set something up then. That sounds fun.
So, and that brings in the series that you're starting with, this book that's coming out. It already is out, or it's coming out?
The new series, the first book is out. It came out in April.
Okay. And so it's a very cool thing. I think that as a fan, I think it's a cool thing when you know something is closing, you're going to get that closure, but then something new is opening from your favorite author, I think that's a really cool thing to do. So your first series and this new series, is there a connection, or are these completely different worlds?
Completely different. The first series, Unwilling Souls, is an epic fantasy, and I 4 books long, and has a lot of the sort of stuff you'd expect epic fantasy. The books are a little chunkier, a lot of world building details that I had a lot of fun with. The new series, The Last Humans, is science fiction with some. I joke with Cursed Dragon Ship, my publisher, that it's every genre but fantasy. It's science fiction, it's got some horror, it's got some sort of dystopian thriller elements, and conspiracy, and it does a little bit of everything except it's not fantasy. So I had a lot of fun working on it.
I'm loving this cover, and I'm loving the title, The Last Humans. Tell us a little bit about this story, without giving any spoilers, of course, but tease us on it. What is this going to be about?
I can give you a little paint a picture of the early part that won't go past the second chapter, and then that's so you got the sort of fortress city of Cold Garden, which is the last bastion of humanity on Earth, and the rest of the planet has been sort of lost to these creatures called revenants, which are these kind of horrible alien monsters with a taste for people. But even inside the city's walls, there's no real safety, because every person remaining is infected with this strange genetic plague that causes lethal mutations with the slightest injury. And even the walls don't always keep out the revenants. Our hero, Yasmina, she kind of learned that to her sorrow when her best friend Allie was spirited away during a revenant incursion. So she vows to kind of run for city council and make sure what happened to Allie doesn't happen to anyone else. But on the night of her victory, she finds her boyfriend Damon dead, seemingly by his own hand. And his last message to her is this cryptic warning about powerful forces in the city that are now targeting her for reasons she doesn't understand. And so Yaz now has to fight these threats both within the city and from outside the city. And if she can't find a way to defeat them both, humanity risks becoming a thing of the past, just another extinct species. So
very nice. I love this idea of humanity fighting for survival, which seems like we kind of are.
It feels like that a lot, doesn't it?
Feels like it. So what made you go from, more of an epic fantasy space to these new characters? Like, what was the seed that birthed this whole new thing?
So it's interesting. This is a little sort of how the sausage gets made. This book, the book that became The Last Humans, I actually wrote before Unwilling Souls. It was the book I wrote, the book I wrote right before that, basically.
Okay.
And I had submitted it around to various agents, publishers, etc. Hadn't really gotten much, but I really loved the story. I ended up putting it on a shelf, and then a few years back, when I was attending Superstars writing seminar, which is a great sort of business of writing seminar out in Colorado every year, I was doing a class on how to start a novel, and I needed the first 50 pages of a novel, and the only thing I had was this book that had a different title at the time. And Eric Flint, the instructor, who's a best-selling author himself, really liked the opening and kind of encouraged me to get it back out there. And actually, Kelly Lynn Colby of Cursed Dragon Ship, she got a sort of a little bit of a read of it and liked it. And I wound up submitting it to her. And she'd become a fan of mine. I met her at that seminar, and she'd become a fan of mine. Had checked out the Unwilling Soul series, had become a fan of mine through that. And so when I submitted this, she was all on board with going forward with this. So it's sort of a zombie series. It's sort of a zombie book. It had its past life, and then it's been reworked into something that's a lot trimmer and better and faster. It's extremely fast paced. It's the shortest book I've ever written and the fastest paced book I've ever written. I had one early reader who stayed up till 3 a.m. finishing it. One person who finished it who read it in one sitting, which was pretty crazy. And then a third person who just texted me with some profanity I won't repeat and said she couldn't sleep after finishing it. So that made me very happy.
Yes, that is good. That's good. I mean, not for her, but for the author, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as it has come and evolved, what are some of the decisions that have been made in terms of the process of writing? As you've been revising, what have been some of the challenges? What have been some of the high points of the evolution of, how it started to where it is now?
Well, I had to cut about a third of it from the draft that I submitted to what you're seeing now, and then I rewrote about another third basically from scratch. So the story, the basic structure of the story is roughly what it was when I originally wrote it, but I trimmed out all the fat, several side plots got removed because they just weren't working. And it's at the time when I basically got a revise and resubmit request from Kelly, and it was basically, she's like, I want this down to more around 80,000 words, and this is when it was like at 120,000. And so as an author, you kind of get that, and you just sort of have a little minor temper tantrum. And if you're smart, you don't broadcast the temper tantrum. You just sort of have it internally. And because your precious draft is perfect, and no one understands it but you. And then you get over that, and you look at it, and you're like, all right, let me see what I can actually do with this. And I was very doubtful that I could actually get it down to that word count, but I did. And by the end, it was a much better book. So credit to Kelly, because she saw the potential. She saw the diamond in the rough and helped me cut it down to where it needed to be. It had too much other side stuff going on that was slowing down the pacing, and now it's extremely trim. Like I said, it's my favorite book I've ever written, just because it's just a ton of fun. It's very fun.
Because you're a short story writer, those little side lines, I mean, you could probably repurpose some of these to put them out there and feed into the world.
Yeah, we're actually working the sort of Yaz's roommate Allie, who I mentioned gets spirited away and killed. We're doing a little short story sort of detailing some of those events that we're going to use as a freebie to get people interested once it's done. So I've been working on that on the side. And you can always pull like a bunch of my short stories that are published in those anthologies are sort of Unwilling Souls side short stories that detail some side characters or side plots that wouldn't fit well in the novels, but are a fun way to sort of explore different perspectives or different angles of stories. And you mentioned short stories that the kids are writing. Writing short stories is in a lot of ways harder than writing novels, because you have to keep it to a very tight word count, and you really have to learn how do I convey the story in the absolute shortest possible amount of space. And so if you can write a short story and then apply that sort of same methodology to a novel, you'll end up with a very tightly written, trim novel that'll work really well.
Yeah. I tell you one thing though, for us novelists, the short story is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
For students, young writers in schools, writing a short story is all about fleshing out, because they want to write a paragraph and call it a short story.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, does a paragraph or 2 count, or do I need to hit your word count?
That's called flash fiction.
It was always hard. So in high school and stuff, writing papers and stuff was always just really hard for me. I loved when they wanted double spaced stuff. It was yes, I can knock out 15 pages double spaced, right? It was great. Then when I got to college and I had to write a 32-page research paper. Okay. I think that's where I just was like, this is not for me. Writing just is not, because it was single space and it had to have like math in it. And like Fern knows math is not my strong suit. So for me, but that's where, a paragraph or two, can that count? Like if, like for me, because I would feel like for people like me, right? I love authors. I live vicariously or whatever through you guys. Unless I might put out like an audio book or like a visual book of myself, talking with my hands and stuff. But I do that, I feel like, every day. It's hard for people like me to write short stories because we have to find enough words to fill that word count, and then we got to make sure it makes sense. And then for me, I always leave things out. Like I think quicker than I type it or whatever. So I leave things out, but when I reread it, it's in there. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. So I envy you guys, because that is the struggle is real. The struggle is real.
I think that for your book, for example, Greg, I mean, that you had to cut some pieces, you had to sacrifice some darlings, right? To make, but it was worth it, because the quality of the book that's left behind is awesome. But those darlings don't have to, end up in the trash bin. I mean, they can come out to the world in a separate way, which I think is really fun. But yes, with students, it's all they're like, I wrote 3 sentences. Are you happy?
Hey, we are proud of that. Okay. We are proud. Those 3 sentences probably took us 45 minutes to an hour to write.
Yes, it did. Oh no, I'll see them there doing that.
Don't be hating on us, okay? Sometimes I struggle to write emails. Okay. If anyone has received that, and I know that Fern has, and I know that Greg has, you all know that grammar is not my strong suit. You have to know my personality to know what I'm saying. And half the time I got stuff misspelled. Okay. So those 3 sentences that they wrote probably took them an hour, and I am proud of you. Okay. Because unite. Okay. The struggle is real.
So Greg, going back to your book, I don't know. I'm a big fan of the zombie genre. So, you had me at that. But, what were some of the deeper plot lines that you kind of honed in on? What would you say is the heart of this novel? Like, what is the main theme of it that people can walk away with?
It has to. Well, so I'll have to speak very carefully to avoid getting spoilery. Usually when I write a book, I have a couple of different. I'm pretty lazy, and in order to have enough interest to write a whole book about something, I have to have like 2 or 3 different really cool things that I can merge together in an interesting way. Like I know a lot of authors who can take one interesting idea and write a whole book or a whole series about it. I'm like, that's too much work. Like it's got to be really exciting, and so I have to have several things. This book, I had a very specific plot twist I wanted to explore, and a very specific character archetype I wanted to explore. And I can't tell you what either of those are, but there's a big theme, I guess I will say, of identity with this series, and just what does that mean, and what how at what point is it's so hard to say without spoiling something. That's fine line. I know. I had the same conversation with Kelly on publication night when she had me on her show, and she's like, "What were the things?" that I'm like, I can't say any of them because. But it is a very like I said, it's what I think of this series as is it's a fun sci-fi B monster movie with a lot of sneaky depth to it that isn't immediately apparent until you finish it. But I've had numerous people say to me that they finished this book and days later they were still thinking about it. They couldn't get it out of their heads. They went back and reread the end. They had to go back and reread the ending, but not because they didn't understand, but because they just wanted to kind of like process it again. And so that's exactly what I was going for when I wrote it. Is I wanted this book that kind of it's fun, and it's got some scary actiony parts, and it's tense, and it's got all this cool twisty plot, but then at the end you're just sort of like, whoa, and it kind of it sneaks up and sucker punches you and leaves you with, it's one of those, I hope one of those stories where you just it's sort of sitting in your head for a while afterward. In fact, Andrea Stewart, the extremely talented fantasy author who gave me my cover quote, she does the Drowned Empire series, which is wonderful, and everyone should check that out. When I approached her and asked for the cover quote, she'd read a much earlier draft of the book before I cut it way down. And she said, she very graciously said she'd be happy to give me a cover quote. And I asked her if she needed to wanted to read the newer version. And she said, no, it's I explained that the story was basically the same. It was just a lot trimmer. And she said, no, that's not necessary. I remember the book really well. It stuck with me a long time after I read it. And she said that doesn't happen a lot with her. So that made me very happy because hers is an opinion I respect a lot. So when she said that, I was very pleased.
Yeah, and that's really a great compliment to any writer. If people can remember your book and they want to know more, that is the big thing, right? I mean, how awesome that our words can impact somebody and that they will mull them over, even afterwards. And I think that's one of the best parts of art, is being able to sit and talk about how the words of this book or that book or the story, how they impacted us and what it made us think. Right. And I can imagine, like, being the last humans, they having to fight to survive. I mean, I would ask the question, like, why do we need to save humanity? Do we need to save humanity? Is humanity worth saving? I imagine some of these questions might be rolling around if someone picks up the book and is exploring this, these humans trying to save them.
That's a fair thing to say. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a great area to delve into, when you look at, what makes us human, what makes us special.
And the tagline of the book is, in humanity's last city, you're either consumed by a monster or you become one. And that's the line "become one" can be taken a couple of different ways, because on the one hand you've got this mutational plague that can affect anybody in the city, but there's also other ways of becoming a monster.
There's more than one. Yes. So. Very true. So it's a series. So it's book one.
Mutagen Deception series is the name of the series. So
very cool. So how many books are you foreseeing in this series? How are you?
I don't want to go on a record yet because we're still talking about how many we want. Me and Kelly.
You are a smart man.
But we have a number in mind. We haven't formalized it yet, but it's going to be a decent number. It should be a nice little series. And I know readers who are familiar with my other stuff know that I get bored with status quos quickly. Most of my books always involve a lot of stuff changing, and then the next book you start with a totally different set of circumstances because everything's changed from the first book. And so that's going to happen a lot in this series because again, I don't like getting into I don't like getting into the situation where the next book feels like a remix of the previous book with slightly different, plot elements. I get, and no shade on, like, if you can write those kind of books, that's great, because it's a much faster way of writing than what I do. But just for me, I get very bored easily if I feel like I've done this before. I need to do something else. And so the second book will look a lot different than the first, and the third book will look a lot different than the second based on how things are going. I'm about 3/4 of the way through the draft of the second book right now. So
very cool.
Things are moving on quickly.
Very nice. So a little bit about your cover art. I don't know if we can put the cover back up there because it's awesome. Working with a cover artist, right? What was the thought process for it, and what were you hoping it would convey?
So Stephanie Saw is the cover artist. She does I think Seventh Star Art is the name of her kind of company where she does the cover art, and she did a fantastic job, really. And basically, she provided a questionnaire of what, and she did not read the book, and which is extra amazing because it's a really good cover for the book that she didn't read. But she basically, the questionnaire said what is the book about? What kind of elements do you want to see? What are the themes? What is the tone? So I tried to be very detailed and basically and I apologize. I said, I'm giving you probably way too much information. You can take what is useful and ignore the rest. And I was giving her you can see there in the upper left, the kind of that's supposed to be like a revenant alien sort of merged with the building that's kind of disintegrating, and then that's Yaz, the protagonist in the middle. And I love that it's sort of this triangular image along with the text of the title, where the last humans in each word is longer than the previous one, and it kind of mirrors the sort of tapering of the image. And I love that from far back, you almost can't see where one image ends and the next one begins. It's like the city and Yaz and the Revenants are all kind of merged into this amorphous shape, and it really works well with the story, and in ways that you don't get until you finish reading the story. But for her to have done this, and for me, it was a very simple process, because unlike Unwilling Souls, which is like self-published series, this series is being published by Cursed Dragon Ship, and so Kelly did all the initial work with Stephanie. Kelly Lynn Colby, my editor, to sort of get the cover into a mostly finished shape, and then she basically sent me something very close to this and said, here's what we're working with, what do you think? And I made one or two suggestions that they agreed with, and they made the changes, and that was basically it. We were off to the races at that point. It's a really fantastic cover, and it's very eye-catching, and it works. In addition to all a cover needs to do really is be eye-catching and get people to pick the book up. But in this case, it also is really representative of what the book is about thematically. And again, it just amazes me, because she did this without having read it, but she still nailed it.
What is the significance of the top section there? Because it kind of looks like a computer type menu going on up there.
Oh, that's actually, that's my bad, because that image should be there. I was in a hurry sending that today, and
it's not part of the actual cover.
No.
Okay, well, I have to tell you, because I kept
there it is. Now it's gone.
I fixed it. That was mine, where I downloaded it, and I could adjust if I wanted to zoom in and stuff of it. Yeah.
I kept looking at that going, what's the technological?
Hey, you know what? It's a Monday, okay? It's a Monday, and it's already been one of those Mondays, okay?
Even holiday Mondays are Mondays still. So.
Oh my gosh!
They're worse Mondays. They're worse.
They are. They are not. Well, yeah. I don't know if they're the worst Mondays, but they still are very much a Monday. Okay, it very much still is. So yes.
No. So there you go. Now it's in its full form.
Yeah, there you go. My bad.
I'm sorry. I just kept thinking to myself, when is he going to mention the top row?
Oh. It's weird, because I wasn't. It's like I know what it should look like, and so I think my brain was just editing that out. And I'm like,
right, yeah.
Oh, this is awesome! But it's a beautiful cover, and it sounds like a really great series that is kicking off. So I think it's just a wonderful moment for you, because as you're closing one series and you're opening a new one, that is the ideal place for authors to be in, so that you are always kind of moving forward for your fans. And so it kind of negates the question of what's next for you? Well, obviously book 2.
Well, and the nice thing is, because these books are shorter, I can turn them around faster. And you know, if the stars align, who knows? Maybe I can have, you know, another series running concurrently with this one, where there's discussions going on along those lines potentially. So,
any hints as to what that series might look like?
that would be I've got something I'm working on that's a bit of a departure tonally. My stuff is not that it doesn't have any comedy, but it tends to be fairly serious so far. I'm looking at something maybe a little bit more in the comedic vein. So
I like it. That would be cool. So that's exciting things to look for or look forward to coming from you. That's what me and Fern are hearing, and we love to hear that. That's
exciting. So where can people get your book?
Yes.
It's a Kindle Unlimited on Amazon. You can get it in either paperback or ebook format. It's Amazon exclusive right now. But that means if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. So.
Perfect. And you guys, it is listed down below in the comments. So make sure that you go and check it out. Go and check out all of the books that Gregory has written and his new series that he is starting that he just launched. And he'll be closing out another series sometime this summer. So make sure that you tune in for that. But with all that being said, we're going to go to closing comments, questions, statements. Fern, I know that we've had a lot of conversations, so I don't know how you want to close your portion of it, but this is your time.
Well, I just want to thank Greg for being on our show. I enjoyed the conversation. I'm looking forward to reading your book, and congratulations on reaching the end of the other series, because that is a beautiful feeling.
Yeah,
one I hope to someday have.
It's very interesting. Yeah, it's gonna, like I said, there's a lot of mixed emotions, and but very satisfying feeling to be able to say goodbye in the way you intended. But thank you. I appreciate your the kind words, and like I said, once I wrap up the next series, maybe we can get together and talk again.
Yeah, you'll have to come back on. We love having revisitors for a new series, closing out a series, just a new book. We love having you come back. So Greg, we'll have to book that and get you back on once that other book comes out to close out your series. But thank you so much for taking time out of your holiday Monday to come and talk to us about The Last Humans and just all of the writing endeavors that you've done, because you are a very accomplished writer. So we are just excited and honored that you took the time out to come and talk to us today. So you guys remember tonight on Through the Eyes of Authors, we are not meeting. We will not meet at all this week. So I miss you all dearly, but we should all enjoy the break too and stay indoors. Okay, it's hot outside. We will melt if we walk outside. So just stay indoors. Okay, that's my word of advice. And if you are suffering from allergies like I am, unite, okay? Because allergy medicine is my best friend recently. So you are not alone by any means. Same. But until next time, you guys, we hope you guys have a great Memorial Day. Remember the reason for Memorial Day. But we'll catch you guys all next